Hi, I'm Deborah, and this is Kids to Cuisine, where there are recipes, reviews, tips, tricks, hints, and hacks to help people of all ages learn their way around the kitchen. Today I'm making my version of shepherd's pie. Most cooks I know have some version of shepherd's pie in their repertoire. We agree that shepherd's pie has red meat, vegetables, some kind of a gravy, and a mashed potato crust. Then the discussion can get heated. What kind of meat? Fresh ground or leftover? Which vegetables and how much? Potatoes also in the pie or just on the top? Stay tuned for a bonus and the recipe at the end of the video. Some cooks never change a recipe, and some cooks, like me, can't resist tweaking any recipe. Watch to the end and decide for yourself. You can leave a comment below or let me know what your version contains. To be honest, I've made variations from a recipe I learned as a kid, refining it as my tastes changed. Stay tuned for tips, tricks, hints, and hacks to help you with this recipe. As you know by now, I'm really big on having a very well-stocked pantry. I consider my fridge, freezer, and cupboards my pantry. While I'm trying to be more plant-oriented, and I usually have very little issue with less meat overall, I have a memory love for this dish, a guilty-ish pleasure for sure. I'm not fully traditional about shepherd's pie. I have made it with all kinds of meat, including game meats. It has to have a good gravy, something to carry the flavor and meld all the ingredients together. I need my basic vegetables, onion, garlic, carrot, celery, but have subbed in almost every other kind of vegetable, particularly corn, a mixture of kernel and creamed whenever possible. I have never put potatoes in the body of my pie. I have only ever used mashed potatoes, whether fresh or planned over, for the crust, and with or without cheese. For this version, I'm using 2 pounds or 1 kilogram of lean ground beef, 1 onion diced, 3 carrots and 2 celery stalks also diced, and 2 cloves of garlic smashed and then minced, 1/2 cup or 115 milliliters of olive oil, 1 teaspoon or 5 milliliters each of thyme, marjoram, pepper, and paprika, and 2 teaspoons or 10 milliliters of salt. I usually use kosher. For the vegetables of the pie itself, I'm using 2 cups or 450 milliliters each of sliced mushrooms and peas, and 4 cups or 900 grams of mashed potatoes. To make the gravy, you'll need a 1/2 cup or 115 milliliters of flour and 2 cups or 450 milliliters of beef stock or water. While this seems like a lot of ingredients, the process itself is actually quite simple. It can also be done in stages. I often plan ahead for meals and dishes I want to make, like this one. This time, I had commercially prepared mashed potatoes gifted to me. I had lean beef and peas in my freezer, mushrooms, carrots, and celery, and my favorite bouillon concentrate, in case I needed a pop of flavor, in my fridge, and onion, garlic, herbs, and flour in my cupboard. I love it when a plan comes together. Sounds tasty? Subscribe, ring the notification bell, and never miss a new video. I started with a large skillet on medium and half the olive oil and seasonings. Then I added my onions, garlic, celery, and carrots. I sauteed them down until the onion was soft and the carrots and celery had started to caramelize. I removed the vegetables from the skillet and set them aside. And here's a tip. The sugars from the vegetables and the fats from the proteins leave brown bits behind in the skillet after you've sauteed. These brown bits, called fond, help to build an extra layer of fantastic flavor. I added the meat to the skillet, breaking it into smaller pieces as it sauteed. I cooked the meat until it was nicely browned. Then I returned the vegetables to the skillet. I let them cook together, absorbing each other's flavors for a few minutes. I removed the mixture to a 10 cup or 2.5 quart, 2.5 liter oven-proof dish. I patted the mixture into a relatively even layer. The dish I used is approximately 9 by 9 inches and 3 inches deep, or 36 by 36 centimeters and about 12 centimeters deep. If you're not sure you have the correct size dish, Here's a hack. Using a measuring cup, pour water into the dish you want to use. Remember, you need to leave a little headroom, about a half an inch to an inch, or 1.25 to 2.5 centimeters. It's always better to have a slightly larger or deeper dish. Here's a hint. By placing the dish on a larger rimmed baking sheet, you can keep any spills or overflow from baking onto the bottom of your oven. Using the same skillet, and it's really getting a workout today. Add the remaining oil, seasonings, and mushrooms. I wanted the mushrooms to cook down to about half the volume. Once I had the mushrooms nicely browned, I added the flour. This is the beginning of a pan roux, which becomes the gravy base. Roux is simply fat and flour mixed together. I often put flour over my vegetables when making a pan roux. The flour will brown while the mushrooms continue to cook. The longer you cook the flour, the darker it becomes. The darker the flour, the darker the final gravy will be. I added 2 cups of boiling water and stirred until the gravy began to thicken. And here's a tip. If you use very hot or boiling liquid, the temperature in the pan will decrease less, which means less time to bring it back up to temperature and more time to develop the gravy flavor. I don't taste or adjust the seasonings until the gravy has been simmering for 5 to 10 minutes. If you season too early, the end result is often unbalanced, over-seasoned, or too salty. I ended up adding a teaspoon or 5 milliliters of my favorite beef-flavored bouillon concentrate, just to give it a little oomph. If I had stock on hand, I would have used that. I tossed in the frozen peas and stirred everything together before pouring it on top of the meat layer. Finally, I added the potatoes. You need at least the 4 cups I used. Sometimes I make it more, but I love baked mashed potatoes. The mashed potato is usually one area I plan ahead for when I know I have the rest of the ingredients on hand. I upload videos every Monday and Thursday. Subscribe, tap the bell, and you'll be notified of the next new video. Here's the bonus. Grate Parmesan cheese over the mashed potato crust for a crispier and more golden top. Mix 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of grated cheddar cheese or other sharp flavored, easy melting cheese into the mashed potato mixture for a cheesier, gooier crust. Way fewer calories than the traditional dotting of butter across the top. Bake in a 350 Fahrenheit or 175 Celsius oven for approximately 40 to 45 minutes, or until golden brown. The shepherd's pie should be bubbling gently around the edges and through any cracks in the potato crust. Let the shepherd's pie sit for at least 20 minutes. This allows the shepherd's pie to become more cohesive, and it will lift out more easily from the dish. It will keep in the fridge for a week, if it lasts that long. If you enjoy this recipe, please tap like. You can also follow me on Facebook or on Twitter. And have a wondrous day.